If you're traveling to Ghana, make sure that you sign that, right? Because you're going to be not physically here. But then once again, you could come to the Board of Elections and just vote your ballot in a couple of weeks. We'll have live ballots. And then you don't have to worry about it getting to you in the mail, even if you're in
Exactly.
Silver Spring. Just come to our office, get it done, easy, and then you can continue with your life. But text the letters VBM to 77788, or you could go to the library, a community center to get a vote by mail application. Or you could call our office at 240-777-8500, or go to our website to download an application or to apply online at 777vote.org.
Thank you for that. Now, throughout the election time, if we should call it that, there are also, besides the post office, of course, that we can send the ballots in, there are also drop boxes. So
Correct.
can you explain a little bit what the drop boxes are and where they may be located in the county?
Yes. So drop boxes came to be during the 2020 presidential elections. Remember, with COVID, we were
Mhm.
home hiding. We had no clue what was going on. And so what happened was, for the primary elections, every registered voter received a mail-in ballot. Now, since then, 2020, 2022, and now the current election, we have a total of 58 ballot drop boxes across the county. Okay.
Okay.
Every registered voter is going to get something called a sample ballot. And I think I have one here. This is from the primary election.
Hmm.
So it'll look something like this. And
Okay.
in there has everything that we will discuss today. Okay. Everything will be here. And on here is a list of the 58 drop boxes. For the 2022 and 2020 elections, we had 55. So we recently added three more at the Montgomery College's campuses in Tacoma Park,
Okay.
Rockville, and Germantown. But there are about 58. They're strategically placed across the county. Most of them are at all of the high schools, community centers, etc. Once the ballots and the drop boxes have been installed, and we're looking at maybe the 18th, 19th of September in a couple of weeks,
Hmm.
we will have them active. They're under 24-hour surveillance. Every
Okay.
day, we are sending bipartisan staff to pick up any ballots in that box. So we don't leave any ballot return mail-in ballots past 24 hours. So if I drop it off at 10 a.m. on the 18th of September, by 10 a.m. the next day, we will pick it up. So we run a little mini post office during
Oh,
that time.
okay.
The easiest way, once those boxes are installed, to identify the nearest drop box, grab your cell phone, text the word box and your zip code. So box, I'll give a space, and then your zip code to 77788. And what's going to happen is the phone is going to look at your zip code, and it'll give you the 3 to 4 closest drop box. But then also is going to give you a link to the United States Post Office,
Hmm.
because there's hundreds of those blue collection bins,
Yes.
right, around the neighborhood. And in every neighborhood, you may have the mailbox, right, bin in
Hmm.
your apartment complex. And so you
Yes.
could also put it in there as well. The package for the mail-in ballot is postage paid, so you don't have to put any postage on it. So you could use either the drop boxes, or you could use the post office or that drop box in your apartment complex or in your neighborhood. Now, something very, very important. When you request a ballot by mail, you have to return it by election day, which is Tuesday, November 5th. But here's
Regardless of where you are in the world.
regardless where you're, it has to be marked. So if you're in Accra, Ghana, or Cairo, Egypt, you take it to the post office and you make sure that that officer puts a stamp on
Yeah.
it November
Hmm.
5th, because we give it a couple of weeks for it to come back to the US.
Okay.
However, once you get your ballot, doesn't matter where you're at, vote it quickly and send it back to us. Okay. But if you are in Montgomery County and it's election day, you need to make sure that you deposit that ballot and the envelope and you sign the oath into one of the 58 ballot drop boxes by 8 p.m. Because at 8 p.m., the judges will close that box. So if you
Okay.
show up at 8:01 p.m. on November 5th, you're too late. Okay.
Mm.
But here's what's important too, that we saw a few individuals do. They vote and they're like, oh, I can't make it to the drop box, but I'm going to put it in my mailbox in my apartment complex or in the neighborhood, those blue collection bins from the post office.
Yeah.
But if the postmaster if the officer has already picked up your mail, they're not going to pick up your ballot until November 6th, the next day. And by the time it goes to the post office and they put the date, it could be the
It's
6th or the
fixed.
7th.
Right.
It's going to be too late. So if you're using the post office and it's November 5th, drive to the post office, go into the office, and you watch that the officer in the blue uniform
Mm-hmm.
stamps it. Don't just drop it in the box because
Okay.
if it doesn't have that date, we're not going to count it. And so that's the benefit of the drop boxes because we pick up every day. But if you're in California or some other location and it's almost 8 p.m., it's you're gonna have to find a post office that's open in order for them
Mm.
to stamp it the 5th of November. So don't procrastinate. Get your ballot voted and send it back to us as soon as possible.
Right. Which brings me to the early voting. So we mentioned different ways of voting, and you also mentioned early voting. What is it exactly, and why is it even important? Why not wait until November 5th?
Mhm. Well, it's funny. When I started working 2 decades ago, we had two options. You needed to have a reason why you're voting by mail, right? Why you're going to be absent. It used to be called absentee voting.
Yes.
And then there was election day. You only had two options. Now, as the franchise or the institution opened around 2012, give and take, they introduced what was early voting. So, early voting, one of the benefits is you don't have to wait until November 5th, especially if there are long lines, right? So, it kind of
Yes.
avoids, especially if some of our older voters, if you have a
Mhm.
grandparent, just like within my community and Hispanic community, we have extended families. So you
Yes.
may have your grandparents or even your great grandparents living with you and
Hmm.
maybe citizens. And sometimes waiting in line for 20, even 10 minutes, it could be too much.
Yes.
Um,
And considering the weather too, in
the
November.
weather, the rain, and for November is going to be a little chilly.
Hmm.
And I remember the one picture when South Africa, when apartheid ended and they were voting for the first time. Those lines were miles long, right? We,
Yes.
we, we won't see that, hopefully not. But if you want to avoid lines, obviously you could vote by mail. You could, in the comfort of your home, drinking coffee, you vote, you send it back. If you want to vote in person, we have early voting. And those 8 consecutive days from Thursday, the 24th of October through Thursday, the 31st of October, including Saturday and Sunday, we have 14 early voting locations. And I'm going to call them out quickly, which are the 14. You may recognize some of them. I'm going to look at my sample ballot. And those 14 locations, the first one is the Activity Center at Bower Park, and that's in Gaithersburg,
Hmm.
which is right next to Gaithersburg High School, the Bower Drive Community Center, which is in Rockville, the Damascus Community Center, which is in Damascus, the Germantown Community Center, the Jane E. Lawton Community Center, and the Lawton Community Center is in Chevy Chase, the Maryland Praser Community Center, which is in Burtonsville, Maryland, the Mid County Community Center, which is in Silver Spring, the Montgomery County Executive Office Building. That's in downtown Rockville. So right behind the movie theater, there's the Executive Office Building. There's the Nancy Dasick North Potomac Community Center. So it's North Potomac, Rockville. The Potomac Community Center, which is in Potomac. The Sandy Spring Volunteer Fire Department, which is in Sandy Spring, Maryland, kind of all in the area.
Hmm.
The Silver Spring Civic Building, where the Panda Fest will take place, is downtown Silver Spring. The Wheaton Community Center, which is in Wheaton, and the White Oak Community Center, which is Silver Spring, White Oak area.
Yes.
Those are the 14 early voting locations. Those centers will be open from the dates mentioned from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you could go on the 25th of October, the 31st of October, whatever date you want between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. What's interesting about early voting is, unlike election day, with election day, we prefer that you go to your corresponding polling place according to your residential address. And when you get your sample ballot, on the back will be printed the location where you would vote on election day. With early voting, you are not tied or obligated to vote at the nearest one.
Right.
So if I live, let's say, in Silver Spring off of Fenton Street, I don't have to go to the one in downtown Silver Spring. I could go visit my loved ones in Germantown and vote at the Germantown Community Rec Center. So
Hmm.
you have the freedom of going to any of the 14 locations to vote during the early voting period. So if you're
Okay.
going to go to the supermarket, let's say you're going to an African supermarket that's very specialized with the spices and all the
Mhm.
delicious food, get your supermarket, go before or after, and identify the closest early voting center. And what we did, once again, get your cell phones, text the letters E and V for early voting, E and
Mhm.
V, and your zip code to 77788. And that texting prompt only works during early voting. So if you do it now, it doesn't work.
Okay.
Only during the early voting window, the period. And when you text that, so let's say I am visiting family in Gaithersburg, I'll ask them, what's your zip code? And I put EV, a space, and 20877, which is one of the zip codes in Gaithersburg.
Mhm.
And it's going to tell you, okay, you could go to the Gaithersburg Bower Park Activity Center. You could go to the Executive Office Building in Rockville or the Germantown Community Center. It will give you the 3 or 4 closest early voting locations. But which is also great is it also gives you the wait time. So if I'm in
Oh,
downtown
good.
Silver Spring on Colesville, it's going to give you the Burtonsville Community Center, the White Oak Community Center, and downtown Silver Spring. But hypothetically, let's say Silver Spring, it's a 20-minute wait. At the White Oak Community Center, there's no wait. There's a 2-minute wait. And maybe in Burtonsville is 15 minutes. So just do easy math. You're on Colesville Road. I'm going to go to White Oak because there's
Mhm.
only a 2-minute wait. And
Right.
that's the great thing about the texting because we update the wait times every so often. And so you can make a vote plan. And then it also gives you driving directions. So all you have to do
Okay.
is click White Oak. It's going to loop on Google Maps or Waze, whatever you use. And then it's going to give you the driving directions to get there. So it's a great tool to use in addition to the sample ballot.
That's wonderful. So definitely technology, making use of technology to facilitate this process.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wonderful. We've learned quite a lot from you, and we thank you. We've come to nearly the end, but before we go, I wanted to find out for those of us within the community who are able to assist. I know that you're always looking for people.
Yes.
What can you say to encourage some of us to get involved with your office?
Mhm. Yeah, so we have 2 great programs. One program that I started 2 decades ago called the Future Vote program. And Future Vote is the only program in America, and as far as I know globally, that brings in students as young as 6th grade through 12th. And they work as election day aides. They work as, I call them my Future Vote ambassadors. And the program teaches the youth about the process. They observe participatory democracy, how in action. You just need to be a student grade 6 to 12. Citizenship is not a requirement
Okay.
because the students, they're not voting and they do not touch equipment. They help greet the voters. They pass out the I voted sticker. They answer simple question. They make sure that the polling room is clear of partisan literature. They'll ask us what questions like what time is it? Where's the restroom? And they ask the voters to fill out a kind of a comment card to see how their experience was. Now the
Okay.
student does need to read, write, and speak English because in the community, especially my community, sometimes the native language is not English. It's not the Queen's English, right? So what happens
Yeah.
is if they speak French, we don't have a French interpreter to help out the student, and it'll be
Mhm.
very difficult for the student to communicate with the voter, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the only requirement. They need to read, write, and speak English, but grades 6 to 12. Now, they will get SSL hours, which they need to graduate. High school students must earn a minimum 75 hours before they graduate from a Maryland public school or private school. Um, Now, if the student is 16 years of age and they're in high school and they are a citizen, at 16, remember, they could register to vote and they could serve as an election worker. Now, that student can not only serve in the process, we will train them. There's an online quiz, and this information is not just for the 16-year-olds, also for individuals like myself with gray hair. The older, they could participate. You have to be a registered voter. You have to be a citizen, right, to participate as an election worker. Once you apply, and the easiest way to apply to become a poll worker, get your cell phone and text the word serve, SERVE, serve to 77788. And let's say you live in the White Oak area, and let's say you're bilingual or even trilingual, maybe je parle français, and you reflect the community in which you live. We want those language components inside your neighborhood polling place. So if you speak French, Amharic, Arabic, we need those languages. And so just text the word serve to 77788. The staff will verify that you are registered to vote. If you're not, we will send you all the information so you can register. Once we confirm your registration, then we will send you instructions to create a portal where you will take an online quiz. Multiple choice, 40 questions, read the material, open browser, pass the quiz. If you fail the quiz, don't tell anybody, stay quiet, retake the
Take
test,
it again.
read it, pass it, and then you have to attend a training session. It's one training session. It's about 3.5 hours long, very hands-on, using the equipment, how to greet voters, how to look up voters in the system. And then after training, we look at your home address and we will assign you as best as we can the location where you will technically vote or near your neighborhood,
Okay.
especially even the students. We don't want them going. So if you live in White Oak, we're not going to send you to Poolsville. We're going to keep you in your neighborhood. Then 5 weeks after service, depending on the position, you could earn up to $250 per day. It is a long day. The polls open at 7 a.m. They close at 8. You show up at 6 a.m. You tend to finish between 10, 10:30. Do not divide the stipend by the number of hours because it's not minimum wage. You'll be very disappointed when you get the check. But you're doing it because you want to serve the community, right? It's
Right.
stipend, it's not payments.
Yes.
For the students, they can earn up to 25 student service learning credits per day of service. So for students, they could serve the 2 days of early voting in the weekend, which is October 26th and 27th. And then on election day, November 5th, because we close Montgomery County Public Schools to use their schools as polling places, because we
Yes.
don't want, as a parent, I don't want students or my child to miss school, right? So they only could work 3 days, but our adults could work multiple early voting days.
Okay.
And it's just simple math. If you do 3 days,
You
two
get
days early voting, 1 day election day, that's up to $750 plus $50 for training. For the future vote, to apply, text the letters F and V for future vote, F and V, to 77788. And right now, we're actively recruiting students and poll workers, both high school and adults. Text serve to serve as a poll worker, text FV to do the future vote component. And then for those students, let's say they're older than 16 and they're not citizens, they could serve as a future vote ambassador. It's less hours, right? And we'll train them. But for those students who are citizens, whether born or naturalized, and they're 16 and older, we will love for them to serve as an election worker. And as a hint of two students, one that just graduated from the public school system and one who's a 10th grader, it looks great on your college application. So for those,
okay.
tip, as from one father to a parent, tip.
Yeah, so that's a great incentive. That is definitely showing on their resume that they are involved in the community.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And before I don't want to forget, and we talked a lot of information and we talked about election day. If for whatever reason you misplace your sample ballot for the general election, and you don't know where to vote on election day, once again, grab that cell phone and text the word check, CHECK, check to 77788. And you will put your information and it will tell you where you will need to vote on election day. It will give you a sample ballot. It will give you all the information you need to prepare to vote on
Okay.
election day. But also, even if you are registered and you need to update your voter registration, text the word update, UPDATE, update to 77788. And that also can mean you could update your phone number. Remember, 2 decades ago, I had a landline and a cell phone. Now our cell phone is pretty much everything, right? It's
That's
our
right.
home phone. And so you may have an old landline that you never use or you don't have anymore. So update your phone number, even your email. We have our junk email and you have like the good one. And then
Yeah.
eventually the good one becomes your second junk email and you get a new one. So update your email with the Board of Elections as well. And
Okay.
even your home address. And one thing I don't want to forget is even if you live in the same apartment complex and you move from, let's say, apartment 101 to apartment 502, because you need a bigger apartment or a smaller one, it doesn't matter. For us at the Board of Election, that is a completely new
New
address,
address.
even though it's in the same apartment complex. So anything that we mail to you, like the sample ballot or a correspondence, or maybe the polling place has moved because they're repairing it, right, for the election. If we don't have your current address, it's not going to be forwarded to your new
To you.
address. Your
Mhm.
love letters, your bills, giant circulator, that will forward, but our correspondence will come back to the Board of Elections. So update your name. Maybe you got married or divorced. We don't need to know what happened. We just need for you to update your information, address, apartment complex, email, phone number, party affiliation.
Okay.
Whatever changes have occurred since the primary, tell us today. Text the word update to 77788.
All right. Wonderful information. Definitely now it's hammered in my brain. 77788.
Yes,
Now I'll be saying it all day
yes.
and sharing that with everybody.
Please.
But thank you so much, Dr. Z.
Thank
I
you.
saw somewhere they call you the election nut on X, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They call me the election guy. Yeah, it's a. I've been blessed. When I joined the board of elections in 2003, when you start a new job, you're like, oh, it's 5 years, 6 years. Got married, have kids, got a mortgage, and I've been here ever since. I really enjoy. I believe in the franchise as a first generation American. My family immigrated from El Salvador. We have very similar lives within family members in the African diaspora.
Mhm.
We are here for whatever reason. For whatever reason, you are here today. And if
Yes,
you are a citizen, you have the right to register to vote and you have the right to vote. But if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain.
that's right.
And that's on you. We've come way too far. Your family members, your loved ones have come way too far over the pond, over the Atlantic, or whatever the circumstance is. You are here today. You pay taxes. You are of age. If you are a citizen, born or naturalized, you need to register to vote. And more importantly, you need to vote because it is our job to serve. We're here to serve the plate of democracy, but we're not going to chew the food for you. You have to actively do that. And it's your job to make a vote plan. And by all means, remember, it's your voice and it's also your vote.
Well said, Dr. Z. Thank you so much. And we'll see you for sure at Panafest and
Yes,
around town for voter registration. Have a
by all
great
means.
day.
Thanks so much. Au revoir.
Thank you. Au revoir.